Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so on, this defense in Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the only football podcast. Tonight, we're going to be talking about some quarterback battles going on during training camp, OTAs, into the preseason. Kyle and I are going to break those down and talk about who we think are going to come out as the quarterback one for week one of the NFL season. Then we're going to go into NFL's most underappreciated players. We got a list of one player on each team, kind of discuss that a little bit. Then we're going to talk about this year's Hard Knocks and which team is going to be featured on Hard Knocks. We're also going to go over some other NFL news, other NFL tidbits, and of course, we're going to end it off with the Chives with Kyle. Let's get it. America is football. Football is America.
Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass for the moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my God!
No!
You loved it.
30-27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30-20. Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Only Football Podcast. My name's Rick, and that's Kyle.
I'm Rick, that's Kyle.
And we are going to be talking about all that stuff that we talked about earlier. But first, I wanted to tell everyone I started a new job. I think it's going pretty well so far. I've been just completed my second day, and I really hope we can do this full time soon. I'll put it that way.
Let's go. It takes a job like that to really, really appreciate like the hard work and effort, and you know the steps we're making to make this our everyday job.
Yeah, because like this is hard work too, but it's just kind of different. And sometimes like when you go a long time only doing this, you forget, you know, because it's like it just becomes hard no matter what. But then you do something and it kind of gives you that contrast, like, oh no, this would be awesome to do to do this. But with that aside, we're going to talk about quarterback battles that are going on around the league. And now that the draft is behind us and the trades that have happened for the most part, major pieces like Kirk Cousins moving to Atlanta, whether it be trade, free agency, or just a straight up draft pick, most teams understand who's going to be under center week one, with the exception of really only 3 football teams. So I wanted to dive into it because I think the first one we're going to talk about is fascinating. You get Russell Wilson coming off 2 bad seasons in Denver, yet still a Hall of Famer. Yeah. Fastest quarterback to win 100 games. He did it in 10 seasons. And of course, Nathaniel Hackett, Sean Payton, it didn't work out, but it worked out with Pete Carroll, who is a defensive guy. And a lot of people are saying Russell Wilson and the Steelers just seems like the AFC's version of the Seahawks. He's going to a defensive coach. They're really good on defense. They're gonna play tough, strong offensive line. It seems like a system that Russell Wilson could actually flourish in instead of an offensive happy Sean Payton that wants his quarterbacks to process a lot of things and make a lot of decisions. And then you have Justin Fields, who was drafted very high. He probably could have gone even higher if it wasn't such a good quarterback class. But he gets stuck in Chicago with a roster that wasn't that great. Matt Eberflus, just bad play calling, just not great decisions all around. And then at the end of last season, once the Bears played even, I would say, a top 12 defense for the latter part of the season, Justin Fields had a winning record, and there was some reason to believe in him. Of course, a reason to believe in him is not enough to not go after a generational player that was in the draft. But had the Bears not had that, I think that they could still have Justin Fields. I don't think they're going to sell him. It was just that Caleb Williams was available. I think that's all it comes down to. So now you got Justin Fields and all the upside. Now, I think for Russell Wilson, it's like we kind of know what his ceiling is, but Justin Fields, we don't. We don't know what Justin Fields' ceiling is, and he's a little bit of a wild card. And it's like, do you take the guy with the upside, or do you go with the experience of Russell Wilson? That's what makes this fascinating. I'm going to kick it off to you. Who do you think has the upper hand in this battle?
Honestly, I think it's Russ, man. I really do think it's Russell Wilson. Again, the age difference is obviously huge, and it's obviously something that really plays a big part into what type of offense Mike Tomlin wants to play, right? Do you want a Justin Fields type who can exit out of the pocket at a much quicker, more athletic way than a Russell Wilson? Do you want a do you want a quarterback who sits in the pocket and can deliver some good strikes with minimal, I guess I would say, minimal variables in his play, getting out of the pocket a lot, trying to, make time or whatever? Because Russ, for as much as he does do that, he does kind of create time and space between himself and the defenders. He doesn't do it really at a high clip like Justin Fields does, if we're being honest, right? As someone who has seen Justin Fields for 2 entire seasons, and you saw Russell Wilson for 2 entire seasons, I think we can both pretty much, talk about this, at a much, I guess, a much more specific level than most people, right? Because we've seen these two guys in action. So personally, I do think the Pro Bowls, the All Pros, the Super Bowl caliber type of player that Russ Wilson is going to give him the edge, the significant edge. I'm going to put it at that, a significant edge over Justin Fields. But again, what is this offense that they're going to be playing, right? Because we saw Kenny Pickett struggle. We saw him struggle with Matt Canada. But now they have a new offensive coordinator, a new scheme that they're going to go with. They've got 2 guys who the offensive coordinator, I forget exactly who it is, in Pittsburgh.
Arthur Smith, which don't say too much about him because I'm going to go into him in a second.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, like, he can kind of play around with the playbook there for the offense. But at the end of the day, for me, I really do think it's Russ because, again, he has tons of experience. He's still got a pretty damn good touch on the football in terms of getting it to his wide receivers. We saw that in tons of close games that the Broncos had last season, getting it to his guys. What's his name? Cortland Sutton in the end zone, right? Like, we saw that. We saw him being able to do that, like, honestly thread the needle. And it's amazing to watch him when he's on like that. So again, I think it's got the edge there. And just want to give a quick shout out to Bill. He says, out at the bar tonight. We'll catch you up on the back end. Check your mentions. I posted some neat stuff and tagged you. Yes, Bill, thank you so much, first of all, for the super chat. We appreciate it. And your membership. Always shouting out Bill because he is our guy. And we will check out those mentions on Twitter. Yep. I did see that you mentioned me. But thank you again, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I look at Arthur Smith and I think, okay, we got to separate 2 things. So there's the Steelers from last year that were a total mess. And then you have the Steelers this year where now you have not only better tools, the offensive line is more secure. You drafted, was it Roman Wilson, I believe. Now you have a scenario where the players, personnel-wise, it seems like the Steelers are in better shape to run a very specific type of offense that happens to be what Arthur Smith specializes in. Do you remember Arthur Smith's first year with the Falcons? They were running the football and they were surprising people. People were like, "Oh my God, the Falcons, they were, winning 2, losing 1." I remember, I think it was like week 6, the 49ers came into town. And at the time, the 49ers had the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. And Atlanta beat them by running the ball for, I think, 240 yards on the ground against that defense.
Holy shit.
So it's not just a matter of like, yeah, we run the football. It's like we are dynamic at running the football. We mix it up and we do such a good job of doing that. We make you, they're going to commit to the run first. That's the style. But once the defense commits to the run, that's when you see them roll out with play action. And you look at Ryan Tannehill, who played the best football in his career utilizing this exact recipe. And by the way, before Ryan Tannehill got to Tennessee, he was considered a bust. That's why the Dolphins let him go. And all Arthur Smith did is help him using dynamic running and play action win comeback player of the year. If you look at Russell Wilson, and like it's kind of ironic because Sean said during the offseason he thought he could fix Russ. And what he said was, I would look at the film, I would see what he does well. And, he was making this analogy that like you need to know the words to the song if you're going to sing karaoke. Like we need to put our quarterback in situations where he excels, but so many times it seemed like Sean was stretching him too thin. Like he couldn't do what Sean was asking him to do. And he, even at Sean's lowest level of dumbing down the offense, it just wasn't a defensive coach at the end of the day. And Arthur Smith, he's exactly what Russ needs. I think this could go so well that Russell Wilson could win comeback player of the year this year. He's got 39 game-winning drives, the second most among active quarterbacks, trailing only Matthew Stafford. The Lions did play from behind quite a bit. 31 fourth quarter comebacks, 31 fourth quarter comebacks in 7 seasons with a passer rating in triple digits. He still has the winning pedigree that the Steelers are going to need to climb back into the playoffs. And I think when people are talking about Russ, I think the ultimate wild card is Arthur Smith. He is exactly what Russ is going to need. They didn't pick up Najee Harris's 5th-year option. So guess what? Najee Harris is on a contract year, which means you're going to get the best football out of Najee Harris, potentially, that you've gotten to this point. And you still got Jaleel Warren, who showed a lot of promise as a pass-catching third-down option. And now you bring in the experience of Russell Wilson because they had everything, but what they didn't have, they did not have a true veteran on the field. You had a very young receiver core. You had young tight end. You had Ken Pickett at quarterback. Where was that veteran leadership when it was needed? Now you upgrade a lot of the players. Yes, you are going to be missing one of your wide receivers, but you drafted another one. Hopefully, the thing is I'm not going to focus too hard on the receiver thing because that's not what they're going to ask Russ to do. Like, of course, you want to have a 1 and a 2. I think it's very likely that they have a 1 and a 2 right now. So beyond that, they don't need to have the CJ Stroud receiver core or the Bears receiver core. That's not what the Steelers are about this year. That's why they didn't draft that way. If you look at the way they drafted tough, physical players because the Steelers are gearing up to have that type of a season, the kind you and I grew up watching. That Steelers, Ravens, Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, that is all what the Steelers are going to be about this year. And if you're not asking Russ to do that much, I think that his veteran leadership is still what could give him the edge over Justin Fields. But with all that said, I've seen Russ play a lot of football the last 2
Oh,
seasons.
here we go.
And while I wouldn't be totally shocked if what I just said happens, Justin Fields is very, very he's like a sexy toy that is just sitting on the sideline waiting for Russ to make us, whatever it is. If the Steelers start, and who do they play week 1? Week 2 they play the Broncos. And then week 1, I'm trying to remember. I don't think it's a divisional game because there wasn't many of those. Maybe the Steelers were one of them. No.
Atlanta Falcons.
Atlanta. So very likely you're pretty high in Atlanta. Very likely, let's say Denver beats them and Atlanta beats them. Week 3 is almost a pivot point of the season. Now they're definitely going to ride with Russ until week 4 at a minimum. But if you go 1-4 and you go into week 5 and you're down 14 points at halftime, Justin Fields is coming into the football game. And not only that, but he will provide a spark, because whatever team is playing, defensively, they have game plan for Russell Wilson all week, not Justin Fields. So it might be a little misleading. Like, we'll see how Justin Fields does when he, comes week 6, when the team knows that they're playing him. But for the game that he takes over for Russell Wilson, I would expect a spark. And we didn't even mention the fact that Justin Fields would be playing for his career, this season. So if he gets even the smallest, window of opportunity, he's going to try to make the most of it. And I think it's very easy for Russell Wilson to lose this job. He's on a veteran minimum. The Steelers are not financially invested into him to the point where it's like, we paid him so much money, you just have to start him. None of that's the case.
Yeah.
And it's possible. What if Justin Fields balls out in the offseason? I still think Russ starts week 1, but I wouldn't put it, past the Steelers organization to actually say Justin Fields has played way better through OTAs and all that. I don't think it's going to happen, though, because Russ is good. He's a good practice guy. So I don't see him losing the job that way, but Russ is about 3 losses in the first 5 games away from Fields coming in.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. But also someone who is seeing Justin Fields, and I feel like we're both just shitting on our old quarterbacks here, because it wasn't what we wanted to see from them last year, but because of a lot of reasons, right? The coaching wasn't working out, the offensive line, the weapons, this and that. There's a ton of reasons why our old quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, didn't work out on our teams, the Bears and the Broncos, right? I can see Russ playing himself out of the job. And I can see what you're saying in terms of Justin Fields coming in and doing and getting a spark off the bat, right?
Yeah.
What I don't think will happen is after that spark is keeping a consistency of quarterback play from Justin Fields. So while I agree that what you said, that entire sequence is very plausible, could very much happen, you got to think about the consistency that Justin Fields has to, keep going in a full season, whether he's a backup or he's starting, because one, he's prone to injury, right? Every season, again, with the Bears, he has been injured. Like, that is just a thing. 2, is he going to be that sexy new toy on the sideline who, yes, he's playing for his career, but is still with his play, with his dynamic indecision of leaving the pocket, of overthrowing receivers, of not seeing wide receivers? Is that also going to affect his career? Because that's very much a thing, and that's very much a reason as to why he's no longer in Chicago. Obviously the Bears with the first pick and all that, it happens. I feel like the Steelers fans right now are looking at their quarterback room and they have a lot of hope in both guys, because like I said earlier, you got an 8-time Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl champion, and a one-time All-Pro in Russell Wilson. You also got a very dynamic younger quarterback who has 3 years in the league already, and has shown that he can make big time throws and big time plays with his feet. I just think going like once we get into like week 10, even before that, maybe like week 9, week 8, and you've already possibly done a shift at quarterback, whether through injury or through poor play, I think by that time you're going to see the Steelers with like more of a quarterback pain in the ass than an actual like, oh, we're quarterback rich. You know what I mean?
Our
Like
farmers.
so I think that's the situation. I love that. I think that's the situation that they're going to find themselves in later on into the season. And you don't want that in a very tough AFC North where there is, I feel like across the league is a lot of people are thinking there's 3 playoff teams in that division if Joe Burrow stays healthy and if Deshaun Watson plays like Deshaun Watson, right? Really the only team that doesn't have those like no shit playoff hopes are the Pittsburgh Steelers because of the quarterback and because of letting go of a couple players.
And because they have an absolute nightmare of a schedule, the hardest schedule I've ever seen in my entire life by any team.
And that. So could you imagine?
That's a huge factor.
Exactly. And can you imagine being in the middle of the season and something where maybe Russ isn't performing or he's playing like he was in Denver and Justin Fields maybe starts but then gets injured and then isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing. What I love what you said though is the Arthur Smith kind of presence there as the offensive coordinator because they have Jaylen Warren and they have Najee Harris, right? They got those guys that they can play with. If he's going to do a run first and take a lot of pressure off a Russ or a Justin Fields, at the end of the day, this may be the best thing that happened to the Steelers, right? Arthur Smith clearly is not a head coach. We saw that in Atlanta. Is he an offensive guy who helps out his quarterbacks and can really develop a good offensive strategy for them? Absolutely. Like you said, you did it for Tannehill. And look what happened to Tannehill. He reemerged his entire career. So I think he is the perfect guy to put in this situation with 2 quarterbacks who did not perform well last year and really over the last couple of years, to be honest, right? With the added benefit of having 2 awesome running backs, a Jaylen Warren who is a rookie and can catch the ball and make dynamic plays. I mean, he had like an 80-yard run or catch last year, and Najee Harris, who seemed to have done so much better with a running mate in Jaylen Warren. He looked a lot better last season towards the end of the season. And like you said, contract year, he's going to play his best football. So Arthur Smith is going to be one of the biggest factors into how they play. And you added Mike Tomlin, who has been a coach for over a decade now, and just the consistency and leadership that he brings into that locker room. It really could go either way. It's just how does this happen? What happens, I should say, the first few weeks of the season? How is Russ performing? Does Justin Fields get a shot? What happens there? But I'm still going Russ.
Yeah, and you look at the draft. They did get Roman Wilson in the 3rd round, but look at position-wise. They drafted 4 offensive players, 3 defensive players. But we'll just look at the offensive ones. Offensive tackle, center, guard.
Yeah.
And then wide receiver. And they went with round 1 and round 2, they went with an offensive lineman.
Yep.
So it tells you what their priorities are. They're trying to lean into their strength. And I think with Fields, like I totally get what you're saying about Fields, but I mean, he's been inconsistent and he's shown to have issues with accuracy, ball placement, timing, all of that. But he's still only 25 years old. And I think he could flourish in a system that creates very easy throws for the quarterback off play action fakes. They're not going to be asking him to do too much. And given Arthur Smith's success in utilizing a similar approach with Tannehill, as we said earlier, I think it's possible we could see Justin Fields play his best football ever in Pittsburgh. And there's
Possibly, yeah.
the other wild card, because you said, we're both kind of shitting on our team, our old quarterbacks, which we kind of are, but we're also just telling the truth. It happens to be true. But one thing I'll say is, like, Sean Payton, Matt Eberflus. I don't know if, like, Matt Eberflus is on Sean Payton's level yet, because Sean's won a Super Bowl.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So looking at Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, like, if you go to football guru Sean Payton and they can't unlock him, that's one thing. But if Justin Fields wasn't fully unlocked in Matt Eberflus, like, we're gonna have to wait and see. What if Caleb? No, knock on wood, but like, if Caleb Williams is struggling too, people are gonna rethink everything that they thought about Justin Fields, because it's all of a sudden like, oh, maybe the problem is the head coach and the play.
Absolutely.
But they have a new offensive coordinator calling plays this year, so I mean, you're not really gonna get, it's different, right? You would need the same head coach and the same offensive coordinator for both seasons to really compare.
Yeah.
But there's a reason that they moved off of their play caller. There's a reason for that. And the reason was because they were not getting great value from that coach last season while Fields was the quarterback. So all I'm saying is, like, you do know that Justin Fields, the possibility of him being hindered by coaching is still likely, or not likely, but still possible. While Russell Wilson, we can't say that.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the coaching staff now on the Steelers for both of these guys seems to be much, much better for their development. At least Justin Fields' development. Again, you kind of said it. We know who Russ is. And we know what they can do. And I was looking just now at, like, their yards per game, and Fields was right around 166 yards, and Russ was like 230, if I'm not mistaken. So again, this is why the Arthur Smith thing is so important, because if you are going to, one, protect the quarterback, two, be like a run aggressive type of team and pass it to your guys, George Pickens, Freiermuth at tight end, you're going to make it an efficient type of passing attack where maybe you're not throwing it 40 times a game, like some of these West Coast type of offenses, right? Like your Mahomes, your oh my God, your Joe Burrow type of offenses, right? But again, it all depends how they want to go about it with who they believe is going to be their starter.
Yeah, and moving on to a team that is in my division, these are my Packers, although the Chiefs are feeling like our Packers lately. The Las Vegas Raiders, and they have Gardner Minshew, and they have Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell was a fourth-round pick last year, and from what we've heard from the coaches, I think the exact terminology was that he's earned the right to compete for the starting job. He had the Raiders 5-5. So he not terrible, but not good. But honestly, it's the definition of mediocre. And with all the things that were changing last season, maybe mediocre is actually good for getting a new head coach in the middle of the season. I mean, he completed 62% of his throws, 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, but he's still a viable contender for this position against Gardner Minshew. And we've talked about the Raiders, and actually they are in one of the most unique situations, and I would call it they are on the verge of being in purgatory. And I really worry about Antonio Pierce, because just like you said, we know Arthur Smith's not a good head coach. Who was his quarterback? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to say that, but then like Desmond Ritter is the quarterback. Now the next guy's in Atlanta, and they get Kirk Cousins, and it's like, oh, see, I told you it was Arthur Smith. So, I mean, I not to say that, he should be the job. I'm not saying that he should still be a head coach. I'm just saying I think sometimes head coaches get absolutely shafted. Because they have they're a good enough coach where they won't tank. Like Atlanta was always a competitive game. You never thought, oh, they're going to roll Atlanta, right? It was always like, ooh, this is a sneaky one, you know? Everybody kind of felt that way about Atlanta. That's what good head coaches do. I mean, last season, look at Antonio Pierce. The Raiders all of a sudden they upset the Chiefs week 17. Like they're coached well and they motivate their players to go play well. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a star quarterback, you're not going to beat the teams that do. And
tough.
and Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, they might be battling it out. But is any of these quarterbacks the right play this year? Gardner Minshew's the known commodity, and Aiden O'Connell is the upside, hoping that maybe there's something inside of him with a new offensive scheme, more rhythm-based throws. This is a timing offense of scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Could maybe Aiden O'Connell rise his level of play? And look, the way I look at it is if you're not going with Aiden O'Connell, what the hell are you even doing? I mean, Aiden O'Connell's the only guy that's a mystery. Why would you go with Gardner Minshew if you don't think he can win you a Super Bowl? You're just going to throw a season away? I mean, at least there's a chance Aiden O'Connell comes in and he looks like Justin Herbert his rookie season. I mean, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but the fact that he's still a mystery continues to be the best thing going for him, where Gardner Minshew's like I said, known commodity. He's going to come in. He's going to keep you in the wild card hunt. I still think he if they go with him, it's like, great, you've earned it. You keep all these teams relevant. You might be the best backup in the entire NFL. But is this going to work out for Antonio Pierce in the long run? That's what I think is unique about this, because I think you still have two quarterbacks that are not the answer. Like, there's a chance Russ wins comeback player of the year. There's a chance Bo Nix hits it off. What's the chance with the Raiders? You know what I mean? Like, they don't really have that mystery like those other teams that are even in quarterback competitions have.
Yeah, this one is it's a weird one because, like you said, Aiden O'Connell showed last season that there might be some upside to him. 25 years old, right? Coming into this season, I believe, coming up. It's just that you look at that game against Kansas City, and I've got the stats right here. Kansas City, right? Last year, dominant defense. Don't get me wrong. Like, their defense was one of the, if not the biggest reason they made it to the Super Bowl, and they basically kept their offense afloat.
Yeah.
But Aiden O'Connell against that type of defense, 9 for 21, 62 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions, and took 2 sacks. You know what I mean? Like you got to look at that game when you're assessing a quarterback competition type of thing. You know what I mean? And we got the Hurricane, one of our new members. Vegas has a middle of the road ceiling. I agree. Yeah. And again, even I think really with Aiden O'Connell or with Gardner Minshew, middle of the road type of ceiling is kind of correct. I think you have more upside with Gardner Minshew, but that is hoping that he performs like he did with the Colts last season. Last season, 62% completion rate, 7-6 record, right? 3,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He did get injured. He did come in for an injured Anthony Richardson. So like he struggled in some games too. There was a period there, and I remember this kind of middle of the season after Anthony Richardson got hurt, where we were like, maybe Gardner Minshew is just the guy that comes off the bench, right? But he showed later on like consistency. He kept playing games. He kept starting. He passed for over 3,000 yards, something that Bears quarterbacks just can't do. They just look at 3,000. They're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But Gardner Minshew did that.
4,000.
I mean, it is, but like recently, it's like 3,000 yards is still like this big fucking mountain to climb. So Gardner Minshew was able to do that, and yes, he had like some some weapons in Michael Pittman Jr., a legit wide receiver one. But for the most part, outside of Michael Pittman, not really a lot. You had Zach Moss and you had Jonathan Taylor at running back, who are very good running backs, especially Zach Moss showed what he showed last season. But Gardner Minshew comes into this season with a Devontae Adams, with a what's his name, the tight end that they didn't draft, not Brock Bowers, but the one they drafted last year.
Notre Dame
Yeah,
Mayer. Wait.
Yeah, Michael Mayer.
Mayer.
Gardner Minshew doing what he did with the Colts last season with very limited talent around him, going into a Devontae Adams, Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers type of situation now, it seems a little bit better. If I'm Antonio Pierce, I look at what Aiden O'Connell really couldn't do last year with his cast of guys, and I see what Gardner Minshew did do with a limited amount of talent around him, and a Colts team that like surprised the NFL entirely with what they did and how they, overcame a lot of games and stuff. And I think you got to go Gardner Minshew. Again, I see what you're saying with the potential for Aiden O'Connell, but and last year was a rookie year. Let's not forget that. Rookies, like, they're not going to perform. They're not going to be this miracle like we see with a couple guys that have come into the league and just immediately had it. I do see your point with the potential. I just think you go Gardner Minshew. I think you go Gardner Minshew week one because you saw that he's also been in the league, a veteran. And now you pair him up with a Devontae Adams and your two tight ends set, your two young tight ends. And you're like, well, let's see what this guy can do, because Aiden O'Connell at least has some game experience, 10 games, 5-5 record. You are looking at a guy who was able to do something like that for a really terrible Raiders team. And you kind of, hold him on the sideline and you're like, look, you are not, when we're talking about Russ and Justin Fields, you are not a Justin Fields sitting on the sidelines. You can't really move with your feet. You're not really dynamic in that sense, but you played for us and you played decent enough for a 5-5 record. Why not? Let's just keep him on the sideline and see what Gardner Minshew can do.
Yeah. And I mean, they went for it on fourth down in the game that would have got him to the playoffs, and the running back dropped the ball. Bill's back. Bill! Sorry, I just didn't know what to do with my excitement. You look at Sean Payton. Good Lord. You look at Gardner Minshew and you think, well, maybe he could go to the playoffs. Maybe Gardner Minshew shows enough where they go, no shit, we could win a Super Bowl with this guy. I know it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
But it could. I mean, you know better than anybody. Not this year, probably not.
No.
But you've seen quarterbacks take teams to the Super Bowl that shouldn't be there. Who are we talking about? Rex Grossman?
Gee, Mr. Grossman?
Grossman. And it's not like it happens all the time, but if it did happen, it would make sense that it was Gardner Minshew. Like, that would be the guy to do it. If Gardner Minshew did it, it'd be like, wow, he really pulled it off. This guy's playing out of his ass. He doesn't really get too, razzled by the moment. He's very loose. He's a good guy to have in the locker room. And if he's really crushing OTAs and doing great in the preseason, it's like, yeah, let's go with Gardner Minshew. I mean, how many more years of his prime does he have? And by the way, like, he's in his prime right now. This is his prime. He's been in the league for multiple years. He's been in about 6 years.
He's only 28, yeah.
So this is his prime. And maybe the Raiders, get the last laugh with everybody laughing about this quarterback competition. And Gardner Minshew just has this team winning. Like, it wouldn't shock me, because Gardner Minshew has only surprised me since he's come into the league. It's always just like, wow, how did he do that? I saw him play at the game where I was on the field for the Jags game. I got to see Gardner Minshew up and close from the actual field itself. And yeah, you couldn't tell that he was a backup quarterback. He looked like he belonged right there. And the Colts with Gardner Minshew, I thought they looked good enough to go to the playoffs last year. Now, what is he going to look like with the Raiders and the AFC West tough division? And we can't forget about the Chiefs, and that's where we should just roll right in, because the last quarterback competition is between the Denver Broncos, and it's not a two-way race. It's a three-way race with Jared Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Bo Nix. You have the guy that they brought in from New York, you have the rookie, and you have the returning Bronco. And they've been asking Sean about it. The media has had limited access. Even fans can only go to OTAs like once a week. It's very
really,
yeah.
Oh wow.
It's, and then when they do go to OTAs, like they're not running. It looks like they're running very basic routes. Like I think they're trying to keep their offense, just off the video cameras right now. And Sean did speak about it, though, and he said, "We will go by what we see. We'll try to get them as many reps as possible. We rotate. We're rotating all of them right now. They're all in a race to learn the system. Man, they're doing well." After drafting Bo Nix, Bronco fans want to see what Nix can do, probably sooner rather than later. I think most Bronco fans want to see Bo Nix start right away. But Peyton said it's always been a balance between letting young guys develop and putting your best foot forward. Meaning, if Bo Nix is not our best foot at this moment, how do you balance that with letting the young player get that experience, which would make him your best foot to put forward? So it's a very, very, I understand exactly what he's saying here. And Bo Nix, Sean said, he's further along than most would be. He said, we're talking about a player who played 61 games in college. He's extremely smart. He's picked it up really quickly. He talked about how he's from a different generation where he carries his iPad with him and he has files on it of the different offenses that he's ran. Like, he's a total nerd when it comes to quarterback. And it's just different. Sean's a guy in his 60s. He maybe doesn't understand technology that much. And then here comes a guy like Bo Nix that is understanding everything Sean's saying immediately. And you can tell that that's really appealing to him right now. He said Zach Wilson's done a good job. He's picked things up. We're encouraged by the way he's been playing. And from everybody that I have heard from that was on the field, Jared Stidham's been the best quarterback up to this point. Wow. And he's made the throw of the day in both of the practices that I'm talking about. The people at DNVR, Zach Stevens, they have a podcast and I was watching it, and they both said, like, yeah, by far it was Jared Stidham with the throw of the day. And that's a throw. Yeah. But still, the vibes are that any one of these three could do it. And it's probably not going to be Zach Wilson. But why is he here? If it's not a true, let's take a look ourselves. It has to be. So I just don't think there's an answer to this question right now. And if I had to say something, it would be, it's probably Bo Nix because of where he was drafted. You don't draft a quarterback at 12 overall if you're 50-50 on it to put him on the bench. But you look at how Denver opens the schedule with elite defenses right off the bat. Seahawks, Steelers, Tampa, and the Jets. Those are going to be elite defenses. So I don't know. It's so liberating sometimes to just say, I don't know. Yeah. I don't. If I had to guess, I would say Bo Nix, because he brings a level of excitement that no other one of these quarterbacks can bring to Broncos country. But it just depends, because if somebody's really excelling over another, that's who Sean's going to start.
Yeah, and that's always the shitty thing with kind of what's going on with the Broncos, because Bo Nix drafted at 12. That day they drafted him, everyone in the NFL, especially probably Broncos country, was like, he's going to start week 1, right? Because then you look at the alternative. Zach Wilson has proven that he is very inconsistent as a starting quarterback. Jarrett Stidham has had limited starts. He's had what? Let's see. He's 1-3 as a starter, just over 1,400 yards, 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. None of these guys really have earned anything going into a OTA, into preseason. They haven't earned anything. It really does kind of go to, hey, like you're saying, how are they performing? What is the performance like during right now OTAs, right? And then we get into mini camps and then the preseason. How are they performing there? Because I got to agree with you, man. I think I'm going Bo Nix as well, week 1 starter. If you're Sean Payton and Sean Payton will, like you said, go with the guy who's performing much, much better. He will absolutely do that because Sean Payton is Sean fucking Payton. He knows exactly what he's doing. Yep. And he took me out. To me, it makes a lot more sense to go with the draft. The draftee, I should say, Bo Nix in this case. Again, Jarrett Stidham hasn't proven anything. He is pretty much has been a career backup, right? Again, nothing. He hasn't done anything crazy. He hasn't done anything worth. It is kind of fucked up to say, worth mentioning, really, right in the league for Jarrett Stidham to come in and immediately believe that he should be a starter. And then Zach Wilson, obviously, he's at his tumultuous time in the NFL being the starter for the New York Jets. And he's had a tough time. A lot of people already write him off. And Bill, I see your question. Once Kyle comes back, I will make sure to post it. But he's just, again, he hasn't proven anything either. And we look at his stats, 34 games, 12-21 record, over almost 6,300 yards total, 23 and 25 touchdown interceptions. He was benched for, 2 quarterbacks that nobody really knows last year. Mike White was decent for a couple games, and he was a decent quarterback. But Zach Wilson was benched twice. Like, how do you come back from that if you're Zach Wilson? How do you go into Broncos training camp or into the team in general after they drafted Bo Nix too and think you have like a legitimate reason as to why they should go with you? So for me, the clear answer is Bo Nix. It really is. It's not for me. It's just not a question, guys. It really is not. You got to go with Bo Nix. But like Kyle said, depending on performance too, because if Bo Nix comes in to the team during the offseason and he has an absolute terrible time and can't get the ball to wide receivers, he can't get them in stride, he can't run a playbook, he can't run the type of offense that Sean Payton wants to run, I think it's going to be very difficult for Sean Payton to go, no, but we drafted him 12th. We drafted him 12th. That's going to be the toughest decision. I think right now for Broncos Nation or Broncos country, I should say, sorry. And I think Kyle agrees. It's just, who's the better quarterback? That's who we want to see out on the field. Is it Bo Nix, who's carrying his iPad with him all over, who's got the playbooks, who's thinking football the entire time? Or is it Jarrett Stidham? Which one is it?
It's not Jarrett
right?
Stidham. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or Zach Wilson. Because I was saying, none of these guys have done anything to really prove that going into training camp or whatever, that they should have this sense of, I deserve to be a starter. Right. But also if Bo Nix struggles during this offseason programs and the preseason, if you're Sean Payton, again, you're like, well, I have to go with the best guy who gives us the best chance to win football games. Or maybe like, what else can you do? Does Sean Payton want to be like, I know we're kind of rebuilding at the moment, so I'm just gonna throw Bo Nix out there regardless. And again, that's kind of one of the two ways I think it's gonna go. Like, you're gonna go Bo Nix because he's the better quarterback, or you're gonna go Bo Nix because you guys aren't really vying for playoffs. You guys are really vying for, we're just trying to put out a good product out there. And I want to throw this question out by Bill. Kyle, do you think Peyton can fix Wilson as a backup?
As a backup?
Yeah. Because I think he's long gone as a starter. I think it's really,
well,
I think it's kind of a long gone.
Absolutely. Like, he was drafted where he was drafted. We all know, number 2 overall. He went, 11-1 in his last season with the Cougars. Like, who he is definitely into the Cougars.
I think he went undefeated with the Cougars, baby boy.
Undefeated with the Cougars. But he was somebody that had a lot of upside, and when you watch him throw the football, like I keep saying this, it's so true. Aaron Rodgers is the only other person that throws the ball in that way where you watch it and you're like, why the hell does something so good come from a player so bad? Like, it just doesn't make sense. But he's got the arm talent. He's got all that stuff. And Sean said his experience looks good. I think this is similar to the quarterbacks that go through Mike Shanahan or Kyle Shanahan. I think you're going to see Russ further develop. I mean, look, it's the only outcome that could happen. You can't take a guy like that and put him in the quarterback rooms with Sean Payton, the film rooms, all of that stuff, absorb all of that knowledge, and somehow leave exactly the way you are. Like, he's still young enough where he's going to continue to get better if he gets put in the right environment and the right coaches around him. And that is happening right now. Sean Payton's one of those guys. So I don't know how much better he's going to be, but he's going to be better. I don't see how he could not be. Russell Wilson looked awful. Russell Wilson, Sean Payton made him a 15 quarterback instead of a 31, 32 quarterback. And I think he could probably do that with anybody because it's what he's an expert at. If I was, if I needed to learn how to detail a car and my friend is an expert at car detailing, I can't just hang out with him all day and never get better at cleaning my car. Like, you're going to learn tips and tricks.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen with Zach. I just don't know if it's ever going to be the number 2 overall ceiling that he was drafted at. Don't know if that is obtainable, but better football play and even maybe a second chance to start somewhere, totally on the table.
Yeah. And again, kind of to your point, absolutely. For me, it's just Zach Wilson. That's it. He's done. He's done as a starter. Unless he has some sort of late career type of resurgence like we saw with Tannehill. That's just me, man. I don't really see anything. But again, in terms of who's going to win the starting position, it's Bo Nix. It's Bo Nix. Again, I know how you're saying, you're like, it's kind of nice to just be like, I don't know. And it is kind of nice to kind of go into this season. Yeah. And be like, look, whoever performs the best, like that's kind of who's going to win.
And it's like, how could we know that?
Exactly. And how can we know that until we go through the preseason and Sean Payton is up at the podium and says, this guy is my QB1. Because you got 2 guys who haven't really earned it based on their prior play. And you got one guy who's a rookie who is like football through and through. And you want to, and that's how you want to start off your franchise. Your second year of your head coaching career with this team. You want to give this guy the best kind of situation to the best of your ability and the ownership to start. And I really do think that is the answer. I really do think Bo Nix is going to be the answer for week 1 starter.
Yeah, I think he has the edge because of where he's drafted. Because it's also like, what message are you sending Bo Nix if he doesn't start week 1? It's very clear. You're not ready, right? You're not ready. I don't know if that's the best message to send to the most experienced college quarterback in the draft, It's like, if not now, then when? Because he's
Well,
already played 6 years in college.
well, what if, I mean, because you could look at it definitely that way, but also, I mean, that type of competition, that type of like, hey, you're not ready. You did not prove to me. Like maybe that grows either a chip on the shoulder, a sort of hunger to get better every day, because
Good point.
maybe you get into a mentality where you're like, my head coach or my offensive staff doesn't believe I'm ready. Oh, okay. Watch Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday. Watch me do this shit. Watch me be in the QB room. Watch me in the playbook. Watch me do this every day, every single day, like grinding, like taking it personal. The Michael Jordan type of taking it personal, where you got told you're not good enough to start, and now you're working harder than ever to make your first start in the NFL. And not only that, to impress in the first start of your NFL career. So definitely it could go either way. It really does depend on the mindset of Bo Nix. And to be fair too, I think Bo Nix, with all that has been said about him prior to the draft, going into the draft, about him being older, about him playing in college too long, about him not one of the top being one of the top QBs in the draft, and yet still being taken in the first round. You've already proven people wrong by going in the first round, by being a favorite to a coach who has won a Super Bowl with a damn good quarterback who was undersized in Drew Brees. So you've already proven a lot of people wrong. I mean, that may just add to the fire, the want and the desire to be a Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl champion in his mind. Or like you said, it could go the other way. Maybe it could have a negative effect. It all really does depend on Bo Nix.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly. Bo Nix is Michael Jordan.
That's what you got out of that? That's what you...
No, it's actually, there's a lot of truth in that, where it's like, hey, he says I'm not ready. I'm going to use that to fuel my fire, and get better. But it's kind of, all these quarterback competitions have a similar theme, where you're just hoping that one of the guys in your group like shocks you. Not surprised you, shocks you. If it's Zach Wilson, it's Zach Wilson. If it's Aiden O'Connell, they're all looking for that upside, and it's just who's going to perform better from now until the season starts to give their head coach that vote of confidence moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Was that all the quarterback battles we had?
That's it. Well, I was going to do Tyler Bagent and Caleb Williams. I think
Tyson Bagent?
Look, hear me out.
No.
Tyler Bagent.
Tyson Bagent?
Tyson Bagent. Looking at his season he had last year, I don't know if you just want to throw Caleb Williams out there because you got all these star receivers. Why not try Tyson Bagent? And then if he works, then you have, like 4 first-round draft picks and Caleb Williams. If he doesn't play a snap, his ceiling's going to stay exactly where it is. See if Tyson Bagent works first with the new weapons and the new offensive coordinator. And maybe if he's your guy, you trade Caleb Williams for like 3 first-round picks.
No way. There's no way that's happening.
All right.
Hey, Kyle tried. Kyle tried. I was like, halfway through that, I was like, there's no fucking way this guy could be serious right now.
No, not at all. Those are the only competitions going on right now. Everywhere else, it's like a for sure thing. Of course, we could quickly talk about Drake May and Jacoby Brissett if you wanted to.
Yeah, definitely let's do it. I know one of the biggest criticisms for Drake May is his footwork, and he is built to be a quarterback. That's what they keep saying. He is built to be a quarterback. He's got size, he's got strength, he's probably got the mind to be a very good quarterback. There's just little mechanical things to work with him, one of them being his footwork. Jacoby Brissett is a veteran who has played for the Browns, who has played for the Patriots. He's played under Bill Belichick. As a starter, he hasn't honestly been half bad. He does he brings a very good veteran presence too to the locker room. I have heard nothing but good stories from former players about Jacoby Brissett too. From podcasts I've listened to, articles I've read, things like that. Like everybody loves Jacoby Brissett in the locker room. He seems to just be an overall great guy.
Yeah.
And
Don't
obviously
last
he's
that long, if you're not.
yeah, exactly. Like he's the type of guy that you want in the locker room, almost like a oh man, what was his name? He went to Harvard. He was the quarterback for the Bills, for the Bucks. I think that
Ryan Fitzpatrick,
Ryan Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic.
Teddy
Like he
Bridgewater.
or even Teddy Bridgewater, like a lot of guys from what a lot of players, again, articles I've read, podcast interviews say Ryan Fitzpatrick is a fucking awesome teammate to have. What he brings to like the locker room sometimes in terms of like gifts and like, just being that veteran presence and being a cool guy, like it's awesome. And that's what Jacoby Brissett pretty much is. Obviously, he's jumped from team to team because his quarterback play is just not at that level. He's just a much better person than he is a quarterback. But he's decent enough to where he's still getting jobs every offseason. It's just that I think with how the Patriots are set up too, they're not necessarily set up for success for a rookie quarterback. Like, for example, a Caleb Williams, how they've kind of set him up, right? And really sort of like Jaden Daniels, he does have some weapons there. The offensive line obviously needs a lot more work for the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. But those two guys, I feel like, were well prepared in terms of weapons offensively to kind of get, coming into the league and stuff. Drake May and the Patriots don't have that yet. So, yeah, throw out Jacoby Brissett. And if you do need a spark mid-season because maybe some things aren't going well, you got like a 2-4 season going, maybe you're winless by, week 6, week 7 or something like that. Fuck it. Let's throw him in there. If he's been doing well during the offseason and during the week, working with like maybe the first team offense, second team offense, whatever the case may be, and you need a little bit of a spark, hell yeah, throw the rookie out there week 7, week 8, see what he can do with whatever weapons you do have. And maybe that builds something later into the season for the following season. Hey, maybe Drake May now has fixed some footwork issues. Maybe he's worked some pocket presence issues. He's a little bit more mobile. He's a little bit not mobile. He's doing this. He's doing the right things for Jared Mayo and the Patriots to kind of get off on a better foot the following year. Or you could just have an absolutely crazy rookie season like CJ Stroud did. You never know. But to me, I think you go Jacoby Brissett, and I think Patriots fans should be prepared if they aren't already. Jacoby Brissett being QB1 for week 1.
May 31st, 2024. Jacoby Brissett will be the starting quarterback week 1.
Yeah.
From what we're hearing, not from the NFL or the nation media. The nation media is like, we don't know. Mm-hmm. But if you tune in to the articles that are coming out of Foxborough, things are a little bit different. So first off, Gerard Mayo, he's taking each practice individually. So not necessarily having the same method every single day. And he didn't reveal how reps are being divided in the closed media sessions. But given what people have seen in the last 2 days with Brissett, Zappe, and May working in that order, both receiving more competitive reps than Drake May right now.
Yeah.
Now, Brissett was the clear front runner, I think, before, the Drake May thing happened. And then when Drake May, it kind of got a little, would they do that?
Yeah.
But this is what they're saying right now. First off, Brissett said this in practice today. He said, I feel like I'm getting better, getting comfortable with the guys. Obviously, I'm comfortable with this offense. I've been in it before, but I'm getting re-familiar with it and with the guys. Brissett was 13 for 15 in competitive periods. He had 2 of the nicest throws of the day. A specific 2-play string for Brissett included a perfectly placed ball to tight end LaMichael Petway before he connected with Javon Baker on a toe-tapping, grabbing on the sideline. By the way, Javon Baker, I was really high on him. I still think he's awesome. Bailey Zappi was 10 for 16 and May was 16 for 20. But here's why it's going to be Brissett. Because Brissett is clearly QB1 already in practice. He's been in this system. He's still getting more comfortable. There's no way that Drake May is going to catch where he's already at. And this is also another telling sign. Drake May continue to work on footwork and fine-tuning mechanical things while Brissett was running those QB1 reps. So you got, like they said, he's a project. He's not fully ready. There's no reason to feel like you have to throw him out there. That's what Jacoby Brissett's here for. And everybody that is there on the field with boots on the ground are saying, look, Brissett he looks like the QB1.
Yeah.
Why would they turn their back on that to force a situation that could backfire on them very badly? You see how Jordan Love benefited from his time behind Rodgers. Let me ask you this. If you threw a Jordan Love week 1, what do you think he would have looked like? We saw what he looked like when he came in during the COVID year for Aaron Rodgers against the Chiefs. I think they lost like 6. They didn't even score a touchdown, I don't think. So we saw firsthand the evolution of doing it this way. And I think that's what the Patriots are trying to do with Drake May. And I'm with you. Jacoby Brissett is definitely starting week 1.
Yeah. We also have to look at what he did last year coming in for and the Commanders. What was his name? The quarterback.
Jaden Daniels?
No. Last year.
Oh, yeah.
I forget his name. Him. Yeah. He's in Seattle now too.
What the hell is his name?
What the fuck is his name? I don't know. I don't know.
Gosh.
Sam Howell. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Sam Howell. We have to look at what he did, right? Like he came in, completed, let me just double check that I got this correct. Completed 18 passes on 23 attempts, 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions on a team with the offensive line that was absolute dog shit, and Sam Howell was struggling.
Yeah.
And Jacoby Brissett came in and was like, dude, I've seen this before. I've done this before. And he goes out and throws 3 touchdowns, putting the Commanders back into the game that season, that specific game. Who was it against? It was against, I can't even remember. It doesn't say there. Regardless, talking through burps because I'm old. Regardless, we have to look at that and the leadership that he can show behind a team who last year with the Washington Commanders, the vibes were low. Vibes were really low. And to kind of come back and give your team a shot like Jacoby Brissett did in that game by throwing 3 touchdowns and 224 yards, that's leadership, man. That's that veteran mentality of being able to come in a shitty situation and making things at least a little bit better for some time before eventually losing the game, obviously. But hey, again, that's kind of what makes him that really good veteran in there. That was just a solid performance by him as a backup to come into the middle of that game and be able to do that. So to just start off week 1 and to already go through the reps with the offense, it's just going to build it up to be an even better week 1 for him.
Yeah. And Bruce Fieldman, he does this thing every single season. It's called Bruce Fieldman's Freak List. And it's the players that are just absolutely monsters. Just absolute freaks, dude.
Yeah.
And this was, I'm trying to see, where was Javon Baker? Because he was on this list. Hold on. Bear with me.
Bear.
No, I didn't say bear down. I said bear with me.
Bears.
Okay, I can't find it right now. But there was this whole thing about him where he like benches. It was like he's in the 1,200-pound club, and he runs 23 miles an hour. Like he's
what the fuck?
Yeah, he's an athletic freak.
Jesus
and I'm telling
Christ.
you, he was a 4th, 5th round draft pick. He was a 4th round pick.
Oh, okay.
He's already like people that are there, they know. But nationally, just wait until the season starts. Javon Baker is going to be a name people learn really quick.
And he's a safety?
No, he's a wide receiver.
Or wide receiver, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
wide receiver out of, I think, Central Florida, UCF.
Gotcha. Well, Javon Baker, we're going to definitely look out for him then for sure this season. If Kyle says it, I believe him. Although
we did good last year with Achan.
We did. Yeah, you did. Man, are you also, I remember Kyle said something. This was before our fantasy football draft. He said Jahan Dotson from the Commanders. And Jahan Dotson for a couple games looked good, but I remember drafting him or either picking him up in free agency because of what Kyle said. I was like, man, maybe he's got a point. You got Scary Terry, but maybe Curtis doesn't really, so I just kind of bought myself into it. But he did have a couple good games, and you mentioned Achan, so that's definitely a good one.
I'm in your head.
With. Yeah, I know you are. Rent free. Rent free. All right,
Jalen Polk is over there too. Just saying.
Jalen Polk. Okay.
We talked about them not having receivers. I think this is a better group than they're going to get credit for. Because of Baker, also Jalen Polk from Washington.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, we've got some other segments to get into, but real quick, guys, memberships are now open on the Only Football Podcast YouTube. So down there, you can become a member of the Only Football Podcast YouTube channel for only $2.99 a month. We've already got Bill. We've got the Hurricane on here. By the way, Hurricane, who's your team? I don't know if
we call it the Only Football Fam.
The Only Football Fam. Become a part of the Only Football Fam. Hurricane, let me know who your team is, who you root for. But we've already got 8 members. Bill and our boy Clue gifted 6 memberships. So big ups to them. I appreciate the love. But yeah, guys, $2.99. You guys can become members of the Only Football Fam. It would help us out a lot. Just to watch games, subscribe to Peacock, subscribe to all these other fucking channels that are going to stream games this season. And it's just going to help us to get better and to be able to travel. We are hoping to travel to LA.
Chiefs fan.
We got 2 Chiefs. We got Casey and Hurricane already just breaking Kyle's heart.
Well, it was a great Friday episode, guys.
Oh, let's go. He gifted 5 more memberships.
No way. Thank you, Bill.
Bill, thank you so much. The biggest contributor to this podcast is Bill. And that's why he's got his own emoji. If you guys are members of the channel, type in we have 4 emojis right now. One of them is Bill, the other one is Jinja, and then the other 2 are me and Kyle saying so that's what you get with the membership.
I almost said it when I saw that Chiefs message. I almost said it. Right when it popped up, I was like,
Kyle was like, get me the fuck out of here. And Nick agrees. Again. Nick agrees too. He's like, boo.
Just kidding. I like it even when our rival teams are in here because it just makes the games more exciting. I just have to play along,
It does. We can't see the emojis on here, but if you're on the YouTube chat, you can definitely see what Bill just put up, even though you can't see him on here. But all right. And Hurricane's saying, I don't hate Denver. Hey, there you go. The city or the team? Because I don't hate Denver either. I love everything about Denver. Denver's dope.
But he absolutely hates the Broncos. I'm kidding. No, the last thing though, because we're gonna shift gears here. I just wanted to say, I think the one thing that's kind of weird about what the Patriots are doing is that they're Of course, Jacoby Brissett's getting all the reps, but then they're taking him out and they're switching him with Bailey Zappi. And then they're taking Zappi out, putting in Brissett, taking Brissett out, and putting in Drake May. So,
Zappi's still there. I forget about Zappi.
I would say let's start getting Drake May more reps. Like, I get that he's a project and stuff, but Zappi's a third string quarterback at best.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, they should probably trade or cut him at this point. Drake May has the upside. He should be getting all of those second team reps, as many reps as possible. That's the last thing I wanted to add. Like, I don't know what Zappi's still doing there.
That's true. You still got that going on, and I can't see the Patriots. Actually, maybe I can see the Patriots going into the season with 3 quarterbacks. I think I can see that. Can you?
Well, I think every team has, 2 quarterbacks and then 1 on the practice squad or on the actual roster. I mean, that's how Brock Purdy got in. He was third string.
Okay.
It's just the fact that, okay, you got a third string quarterback. That's an emergency case. These are valuable reps. And if Drake May could be getting, I'm not saying don't throw him out there. I'm saying Jacoby Brissett can have, 70% of the snaps, give 20 to 25 to Drake May, and then the remainder to Zappi. It shouldn't be split evenly. Drake May should be getting more. If anything, just throw Zappi out there, for one series, and all right, that's fine. Now Zappi's going to work with the third string over here, and Drake May and Jacoby Brissett are going to bounce in and out.
True. I'm trying to see real quick before we move on again who got the. I'm trying to see if it. Oh, hey, nice, Lily. What? You got gifted one of the memberships from Bill, that Dolphin fan, Perry King, Who Day Nation, and someone named Ian. We're all gifted memberships.
Oh, I remember Ian from the beginning. Where has he been? He's been gone for like a year.
Yeah, I don't really remember.
Ian.
I don't really remember Ian, to be honest.
I remember his name in the comments. I don't remember anything about him.
Yeah. Same. I think same. Okay. So like I said, switching gears, we're going to go into the NFL's most underappreciated players, on pretty much one on each team. We're going to talk about a little bit about. So Kyle, you want to start it off?
Yeah. All right. I'm going to start off by saying that, yes, I'm going to be kind of going through, this was an article that was written. This wasn't made by me, because if it was made by me, they wouldn't be overlooked. The whole point is that I don't know them because they've been overlooked. So with a little bit of, what do you call it? Context here. We're going to go into it and just give you that heads up that, no, we don't really know these players either, and you probably won't either. So we're going to start off with the Arizona Cardinals, and it's going to be a wide receiver. Do you want to try? It'll be fun. You won't get it. Do you want to guess?
A wide receiver. I once they got rid of Hollywood Brown, I don't know. Greg Dortch. Why does that name sound so familiar?
I doesn't to me.
I don't fucking know.
Dortch's stat line: 41 targets, 24 catches, 280 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Looks kind of lame, but that's because through mid-November, he was limited to punt and kick return duties. Most of his production came after Kyler Murray returned from injury, with Dortch becoming the second most targeted player on the team from week 11 to week 18, when he also racked up the second most receiving first downs, 14. The spotlight, of course, is on Marvin Harrison Jr., but it wouldn't be surprising if Murray continued to look in the direction of Dortch, who, by the way, will count for just $985,000 against the cap after signing a 1-year exclusive rights tender in April. After a full season of being called a glue guy on TV. Dortch might graduate from this list. For now, let's join Marquise Brown in showing this former practice squatter some love.
Oh, that's good. That's good for him. Greg
Yeah.
Dortch, it just sounds like a name that I've heard before.
It sounds like Greg Dulcich, the tight end in Denver.
Or Dulcich, maybe. But Dortch sounds so like I've heard that name before. You know what I mean?
Greg Dulcich and Greg Dortch are kind of similar, though.
Similar, yeah. Okay.
And I've said his name a ton. I don't know. Maybe you do know this guy. Maybe you're better at this than me. All right.
You don't have to say it, okay? But I like that. I mean, like you said, former practice squatter, when they're able to kind of come into the team and actually make a difference, especially on a team that for a couple of years they really were lacking some wide receiver depth outside of Hollywood Brown, and obviously DeAndre Hopkins when he was there. It's good for him. Good for him. Definitely underappreciated because I have no idea who that guy was.
Right, and that's going to be a theme here. Mm-hmm. So going to the Atlanta Falcons, it's a defensive tackle. And you know what I love real quick about this segment is that after this segment, when we see him next year, like this is the kind of stuff that only diehard fans like find these articles and read them. Most people turn football off after the Super Bowl and they turn it back on the draft and they turn it back on in preseason. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So like by doing
Not
this
us.
with not us, not at only football. So by doing this though, we are going to see these players on Sunday and it's not going to be like, how do I know his name? We're going to know like, oh yeah, he's the guy that was slept on. That's Greg Dolt, when we see him. So that's what I love about this, but we're going to talk about a defensive tackle that I can't pronounce. I'm going to try, but excuse my ignorance. Onyemata.
Hey, there we go. I think that's good. Yeah.
David Onyemata. Onyemata. Not your father. Onyemata. Practically.
Why are you gay? You ever seen that one?
Yeah, I have that video.
Why are you gay?
Onyemata practically turned flying under the radar into an art form in New Orleans over the first portion of his career, averaging nearly 4 sacks and 28 quarterback pressures between 2017 and 2022, according to Next Gen Stats. And he didn't miss a beat in his first season with the Falcons, providing a respectable 35 quarterback pressures and 4 sacks. It was the fourth straight time that he finished with 31 plus pressures. And the fifth time in his 8 seasons that he's turning 32 in November, that should only help boast his underappreciated bona fides. I know this type of a player. This is like Shelby Harris. We've had one of these.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you said
if you're a fan, you know him. If you're a fan, you love him. But just doesn't get that national recognition.
You said 35 pressures, 4 sacks last year?
35, yep.
That's not bad for flying under the radar like that. Like, you're kind of on the up and up, really, with those kinds of stats.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's
like that.
He is turning 32, so like I think it's possible he's playing his best ball right now, but his best ball is probably worth knowing his name, and we don't. So it makes sense he's here.
I like it. Showing some love to the defense.
All right, finally a player that we're going to know. You're going to know. And I didn't know how young this guy was. He is pretty young.
Oh, Chuba Hubbard. Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard. He's 24 years old. Mm-hmm. Okay. He made the list of underappreciated players last year too. Mm-hmm. But they're going with him again here because of what he did after that. And because for the second straight season, the Panthers have invested in competition for Hubbard. In 2023, Carolina signed Miles Sanders to a fat new contract only for Hubbard to end up carrying the ground game. He had 238 carries, 902 yards, almost 1,000-yard season.
Damn.
And 5 rushing touchdowns. In his third pro season, he became only the second Panthers running back to top 1,000 scrimmage yards in a season since Christian McCaffrey did it in 2019. Wow. This year, they drafted Jonathan Brooks in the second round. And Jonathan Brooks was the number 1 running back on a lot of people's boards. But the rookie's coming off a torn ACL, At the least, Hubbard can serve as a reliable option, while new coach Dave Canales attempts to straighten out the rest of the offense around Bryce Young. This is a great. I just couldn't agree with this more.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially with Canales coming in and being like, we have to establish the run for Bryce Young. We have to be able to do this in order to open up options for him, in the passing game. So, but Chuba Hubbard, yeah, one of those years when Deontay Foreman was there, I believe it was 2 seasons ago. They were like a force. Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard, after Christian McCaffrey left, like it was like, oh my God, who are these guys? Like these guys are doing really well in Carolina. Like they're actually really good running backs. And Deontay Foreman went on the Bears last season, and Chuba Hubbard's still obviously there with the Panthers. So not necessarily like unknown, underappreciated. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, especially when you keep trying to bring in replacements, and then it's like you got this old shitty car that you just don't like cosmetically, and you go buy a nice new car, but that new car won't start, and you're just looking over in your driveway at the old car you abandoned, knowing it'll start right when you turn that key.
Yeah,
and you're like, man,
that's
old reliable, and sometimes it takes something for you to really appreciate it, but he has been very reliable, especially for a 24-year-old.
Yeah, true.
We're gonna stay at running back here. Ah, gosh darn it. Never mind. If I don't, we're gonna skip. Okay, damn it.
What?
I wanted to ask you which player you thought on your team would be on this list, but I just blew it.
You said running back. That's Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson.
What do you think? I mean, you're the Bears fan. This writer's probably not.
I think Roshan Johnson showed some like big runs. Khalil Herbert. Was it Roshan Johnson?
Roshan Johnson.
Let's go.
Says he was probably appreciated at an appropriate level last year when he was a 4th-round pick, showing flashes for a stuck-in-the-mud offense, topping 50 scrimmage yards in 5 games and breaking off the occasional monster game. That was before Ryan Poles supercharged the depth chart with attention-grabbing names like Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, and most crucially for Johnson, DeAndre Swift.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Swift's with the Bears?
Hell yeah.
I just, real quick, if this year the Bears don't work, I do believe that they're actually cursed. Like if they can't make this work,
that's what I'm saying.
There's something much deeper out of this realm going on.
You're fucking telling me, dude. I think if they can't make this work, the 85 Super Bowl, that dominant defense, and having Walter Payton as your running back, that was the bad stuff. Like you wanted to win this Super Bowl so bad, and you wanted a Hall of Fame running back. Cool, you get 50 years of nothing.
Bears fans that remember that Super Bowl are like, it's worth it.
Totally worth it.
All right, but loaded team, okay? Don't forget about Roshan Johnson, though. For the first time in his career last season, Swift served as a clear-cut lead back for the Eagles. I don't totally agree with that because I had him on my fantasy, and Kenneth Gainwell was very involved. So let's just put that to the side.
DeAndre Swift, for a while there, was elite.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. Week 2, he had like 160 yards and like 2 touchdowns. I had him on my fantasy team. He had like 30 points. He was on the bench.
Yeah.
And then I put him in next week, and then that's why I know he wasn't getting that volume. I kept being like, what the hell? Give it to that guy. So I even made a short about it. If you go back far enough, you can find it. Don't forget about Johnson, though, okay? So, yeah, DeAndre Swift served as a heavy role player last year. His production also sputtered towards the end of the year, though, okay? Giving Johnson a healthy share of the workload seems like a good way to bring the young back further along while perhaps keeping Swift fresher for longer. So they're basically saying this is not like DeAndre Swift comes in and takes over. This is a 1-2 punch. And the 2, if you have a true 1-2 punch, the 2 is almost just as valuable as the 1. And in this case, the 2 is Roschon Johnson.
Yeah. And like you said, he showed a lot of really good, like exciting runs for a rookie, for a 4th round or whatever it was. And he was coming out of Texas where Bijan Robinson was the lead back. So for him to be able to do what he did with the Bears, in a very limited kind of setting, I mean, you had Deontay Foreman on there, Khalil Herbert. So it was a really kind of like, I don't want to say stacked, but very busy type of running back room. Like the opportunities he had, he definitely made them count. So underappreciated. Yeah, maybe I would probably say a couple other players. Roschon Johnson, I mean, he had very limited opportunities. So
I think it's like underappreciated relative to the production he's about to have.
Okay. I mean, I could see that.
Because you bring in all these like big name guys, Caleb Williams. I mean, it's like so much. I mean, it's easy for Roschon Johnson to just be like, what about, remember me?
Hey, what the fuck did I? Yeah.
So if he does come in and, he has 600, 700 yards and he's playing a really important role in keeping DeAndre Swift, I think they're just saying Bears fans right now with all the hype might not realize how valuable that is.
Yeah, I can see that.
The Dallas Cowboys, it's a wide receiver. Let me see it, chat. Who do you think it is? You guessed it. CeeDee Lamb. No, I'm kidding. No one knows who he is. He's underappreciated. His Lamb, I think it's Lamb. CeeDee Lamb.
Lamb? Oh, Lambe. Yeah, Lambe. I'm gonna go.
See if the chat. If I'll give it 10 seconds. Rick, who do you think it's gonna be?
I'll give it 10 seconds too, but I'm pretty sure I know who it is. And he had a couple big games too, and I think he did not too bad in the playoffs. All right, that was enough time, chat. I'm gonna go Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks is in fact the answer.
Yes.
Cooks has definitely been appreciated by NFL teams who have paid him plenty and traded for him several times since he was drafted in 2014. But he's never made the Pro Bowl or first team All-Pro. And in 4 of his 6 1,000-yard seasons, his team had a losing record, meaning he spent a good portion of his career on the fringes of the competitive landscape. So even before 2023, he probably could have qualified for a lifetime underappreciation award. Now, as even he would admit, he's no longer the top catching option on the field. That said, he's kept his per catch mark above 12 yards over the last 2 seasons. He says he's ready to rock after picking things up in the second half of last season. The volume might not be there, but he is a pro who can still play an important role for Dallas.
Yeah, I like it. There were some times too where Brandon Cooks seemed to be kind of giving a spark to that offense. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, you can't go wrong with CeeDee Lamb. He's a 100% wide receiver 1 type of guy. But Brandon Cooks, was Michael Gallup on the team too?
Yes.
Last year? Okay, then Brandon Cooks kind of reminds me a bit of who's that wide receiver in Seattle? Who
Tyler Lockett?
Tyler Lockett. Like you have DK Metcalf, who pretty much gets all the shine. And then Tyler Lockett is over here just making great catches, getting yards after the catch. And while I think Seattle fans really love him and they appreciate him a lot, he's not really mentioned up there with like DK, I feel like. So I think that...
Yeah, Tyler Lockett was 5'10". I think Brandon Cooks is like 6'3".
Yeah, and then...
But I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's what Brandon Cooks is like to me.
Yeah, just like almost like Randall Cobb in Green Bay.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Just like a really like Devontae Adams was there. So of course he gets all the spotlight, but great comparison. All right. The Detroit Lions. It's a linebacker. I've never heard this guy's name before.
Oh, so it's not what was the guy's name in Hard Knocks?
Rodrigo.
Rodrigo. Isn't that Rodrigo?
It is not Rodrigo.
I don't know. Linebacker? Unless it's like that one guy with like the Italian last name, I feel like. Anzalone. Yeah. Because he's got like the long blonde hair or whatever.
Good memory.
Yeah.
Good memory. I thought I would end up naming more linebackers to this list given the stat sheet stuffing nature of the position, but I made it all the way to the D's before selecting Anzalone.
And real quick, Bill, it's underappreciated players on teams over the last couple seasons, maybe last season, something like that. But sorry, Kyle.
Oh no, you're good.
Yeah.
I was gonna put the title in the thing, but it has players' names in it. I don't want to ruin it. I thought I would end up naming more linebackers. Okay, so now we've gotten to Anzalone for the Lions defense. Okay, it might seem that being compared to one of the greatest NBA players of all time would be a sign of sufficient appreciation. Then again, if Anzalone were truly fully appreciated, would McNeil feel the need to evangelize that hard? Anzalone paced Detroit in tackles. He had 129, while chipping in 3 sacks and 6 passes defended last season. He also clearly morphed into a leader for a team cementing itself among NFL top contenders. And I think you get this whole list is just like role players that play a significant role, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you get this in basketball all the time. It's like you get into the playoffs and it's like, okay, great players, but how deep is the bench? And then you get a player that comes off the bench and he gets 25 points in a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
And then they keep him in the next game because he's hot. Yeah. And it's like, okay, not only is this just a role player, but this is a role player that is providing a lot of value for the team. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think they're getting at here with Alex.
Yeah, I liked him. I do sort of remember the name. Like I said, it had like, I was like, it sounds Italian. And Anzalone, I mean, it does sound Italian, right? When you kind of see it. So
yeah,
I know when I was watching Hard Knocks, I know he was like not super featured on it like Rodrigo was, but I heard the name. And then during Bears games, he was kind of like not necessarily all over the field, but he like his name was called out a few times. And I'm like, damn, that guy's pretty good. He almost reminds me of like a Clay Matthews. Like he plays really fucking tough and really likes to hit people. So Anzalone, good pick for the Lions.
Got it. The other white linebacker. All right. So
Brian Urlacher. What are you talking about? The other white linebacker with long blonde hair.
The other NFC North. All right. Now calm down. Okay. So I got 4 more. And the reason there's actually like 10 more, but I'm going to stop after 4 because the 4th is the Giants. So I want to get that for Bill.
All right.
Moving on to the Green Bay Packers, it's an offensive lineman. We're not going to probably know the offensive linemen. So there it is, Zach Tom.
He's got 2 first names.
He does have 2 first names. So many young Packers stepped up in so many key positions last year that it's easy to gloss over Tom's emergence at right tackle. The 2022 4th-round pick started all 17 games, yielding just 2 sacks, according to PFF, helping keep Jordan Love clean while he established himself in Green Bay's next franchise quarterback. Tom also earned the 4th best offensive grade on the Packers per PFF. That alone would be enough for him to net a spot here. But what really clinched it was a report by Rom Domvolinsky that the Packers see Tom as a potential Hall of Fame center. Wow. Whether Tom eventually moves to the pivot or not, it's impossible to resist someone who's been the subject of such an exquisite example of off-season hype.
I like that. Hall of Fame center. I mean, that's saying a lot for him. But
yeah, in the 4th round too.
Yeah. Oh man, imagine getting a Hall of Fame center in the 4th round. Like,
well, I think centers typically like it's like you could have the best center in the draft, and he'll be available in the 4th round still. It seems like they would rather draft tackles, left tackle, right tackle. Maybe even like a star guard. I remember when we drafted Lloyd Cushenberry, who just got a contract and moved on, but he was the number 1 center available in the whole draft. And I think he got picked in the 4th round. So
wow.
it's a center thing.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, he's got a big responsibility to, not only snap the ball to Jordan Love, but obviously protect him too. And with the way Jordan Love and that entire Packers offense was playing last season, I mean, I guess underappreciated is a very good way to describe him if he's doing that great of a job to be called a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, to feel Jordan Love's hands in your gooch and still have to focus on snapping the ball.
Well,
it's like, I don't want to snap it. I want this feeling forever.
Jordan Love's like, hike.
I was on 7. Hike. I thought it was on 7. I didn't know. Come on, relax. Who cares?
In his ear, just like
Can
right
we just
into
not
his
huddle
ear.
up? Let's just get right into it.
He's like, I love when my balls just gently sit on the top of your hand.
I feel that. All right, going on to the Los Angeles Rams. We're going to talk about a wide receiver not named probably the 2 names that we all know. Who is their wide receiver 3, if you guys can remember? Put it in the chat real quick.
I think I might know, just because I think I mistook him for a receiver that was on the Bears, then went to the Rams.
Yep,
and then
you got him.
Steelers,
That's him.
Right? That guy.
That's your guy.
Yeah.
DeMarcus Robinson.
Yeah, not Allen Robinson. DeMarcus Robinson.
DeMarcus Robinson. Sorry, chat. You guys weren't fast enough.
After
years of being, I wonder are we delayed that much, or is no one answering? That's what I want to know.
No one's answering.
Okay. That's okay. You guys don't have to. You're probably in the bathtub.
It's our job.
You don't want to get your phone wet with your fingers. No towel to dry off. All right.
Bill's like, I got a membership and super chats. You give me the answer.
Yeah, sure. After years of being, on average, the 5th most targeted player in Kansas City, and 1 season as the 2nd most targeted player in the Ravens passing game in 2022, which was anemic at that point. Robinson signed with the Rams, where he was the team's 6th most targeted player in 2023, but that's largely because he was not a part of the passing game at all until week 9, when he logged his first target and catch, for that matter, in a Rams uniform.
Oh, wow.
And he really started putting up numbers down the stretch, helping his team secure a playoff berth with 21 catches, 319 yards, and 4 touchdowns in 5 games from weeks 13 to 17.
Oh, wow.
And you got to think, all that attention on, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and it was this guy. I mean, look, that's really good production. 4 touchdowns in 5 games. I think Cortland Sutton had 4 touchdowns on the year. So, Jesus. I mean, maybe a little bit more, but not a ton. So this offseason, Robinson re-upped in LA on a 1-year deal. So the stage is set for him to finally, in his 9th pro season, establish himself as an essential supporting member of a capable passing game. If he's about to level up from yeoman status playing alongside Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, now's the time to put Robinson on the list. I'm glad we're talking about this, because we talk about the Rams as one of those dark horse deep playoff runs. Maybe Matthew Stafford gets that Super Bowl, rides off on the sunset. DeMarcus Robinson could play a monster role in that.
He could, and like you said, like if teams are focusing on Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, I mean, that leaves him and probably the tight ends open. But if wide receiver, that's your guy right there. I mean, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are going to get their catches and they're going to get their yards and touchdowns. But in a week where maybe you're facing some top cornerbacks, DeMarcus Robinson is there, man. And he's like, hey, check me out. I had a fucking amazing game last season. I could have an amazing season if it does kind of get to me being the number 1 guy. So, yeah, good for him.
All right. Minnesota Vikings. We have a safety. Cameron Bynum. I was thinking of naming Josh Metlis, but he seems to be an underrated favorite, unsung hero of the moment. So I'm rolling with Bynum, who led the Vikings in tackles in his 2nd season as a full-time starter. He was the 4th highest graded defender on the roster, according to PFF. He ranks 2nd in Minnesota for Minnesota in passes defended. He had 2 picks, both coming in a Monday Night Football win over the 49ers. With Bynum, Metellus, and Byron Murphy Jr. all showing that they can excel, that they can excel under Brian Flores' Minnesota secondary, seems to be in strong shape for 2024. Are we sleeping on the Vikings defense this year?
With what's his name, Flores there? Maybe.
Brian Flores.
Yeah, because
I think when Denver played him at that time, they said the Minnesota was the highest blitz percentage team in the NFL. And they
yes,
dial up so many different kinds and they confuse you.
They were. And their improvement from the season prior with Kirk Cousins to last season with like a quarterback pretty much carousel that they had the Pastronaut for a bit. They had their rookie in there for a game or so. And then they had, who else did they have? Oh my God. It was like
on defense.
No. As a quarterback starter, he was like, I forget the name. Either way, they were still in a lot of games with those backup quarterbacks. Rookie, Pastronaut, and someone else. I forget who the other backup was.
I know the Pastronaut, and then what's his name?
He was I know I forget his name, but
he's a white guy, right?
No. It was a black guy, bald, no eyebrows. I forget his name.
That's the Pastronaut.
That's the Pastronaut. But the other guy I'm talking about, he used to be the San Francisco quarterback, and I forget his name. But the defense kept those teams with those quarterbacks in a lot of games.
Nick Mullins.
Thank you. Yeah. Nick Mullins showed some good effort there.
White guy, no eyebrows.
No. The black guy was the Pastronaut, no eyebrows.
Jaron Hall also.
Jaron Hall was their rookie. And the defense did a lot of good things for them during those periods of like just shitty quarterback play. So kind of good for them because yes, maybe we are sleeping on the defense, and it might be this year that the offense kind of continues to have that sort of like, we got to build a bit, see how JJ McCarthy is, see how Darnold is. So the defense might be like the only thing to watch in Minnesota other than Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. And just to be clear to the chat, I said defense. I didn't say, are we sleeping on the Vikings? I said, are we sleeping on the Vikings defense? I still think the Vikings are a 3-win football team.
Oh, that's right. You did say that.
We have finally made it home to the New York Giants. And now, Bill, it is time for you to put your player in the chat. Who is the most underappreciated team on the offensive side of the ball? That's your hint. Offensive side of the ball. It's not a lineman. I'll give you one more. And while we wait for Bill's answer, did you see Darren Waller's new song that just dropped?
I did not. I saw clips of it, and it was cringe as fuck. It was cringe as fuck.
I literally saw it, and I just was like, I don't want to have to comment this. So hopefully, let me just hit the comments and see if someone else did it. And there it is. Don't quit your day job. Someone did it. I'm out of here. This was so bad. I mean, with the auto tune was just, I mean, how do you listen to that and go, yeah, this sounds good? I bet it would have sounded so much better if he just used his actual voice without all the auto tune.
I don't think
auto-tune sounds like shit, dude.
It does a good thing to the voice.
If you're not T-Pain,
I don't think so.
Don't use auto-tune. There's only one person that can get away with it.
Kanye too. Bill saying,
"Ooh, I'm gonna take you home with me because your breath stank."
Bill saying Daniel Bellinger had a great rookie year, but last year, because the O-line sucked, he was assigned blocks all the time. With the O-line help and Singletary back there, a blocking machine, he'll do good this year and be able to catch some passes. And with Waller gone, Daniel will get more targets. So Bill's saying Daniel Bellinger, a second-year wide receiver, That's who he's got as far as underappreciated or third year, whatever it is. So that's
all right. Fair enough. The answer is Darius Slayton, wide receiver.
Ooh, another wide receiver.
As a 27-year-old entering his sixth season, Slayton is definitely not a hotly anticipated rookie receiver who was thought of by some as one of the best players in his draft class. That would be Malik Neighbors, taken by the Giants with the 6th overall pick. But Slayton, whose contract was recently reworked to include added incentives, can play an important role on his team. He's never topped 800 receiving yards in a season, but he's only put up less than 700 once. So you are getting production every single year. In 2021, he also made a career low 5 starts, and he's been a regular contributor to an offense shaky passive game, putting up a useful 15.1 yards per catch in his career.
Yeah.
That's not a single season. That's a career average. That's insane. This is crucial for Daniel Jones and Slayton. Can be the steady veteran who gives the quarterback some security while providing space for Neighbors to find his footing. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, I don't know if I agree with that because Bill makes a good point. He's been our number one pass catcher for out of the last 5 years. I've heard Darius Slayton. I've seen Darius Slayton in like plenty of like highlights and plenty of like, he is our guy. So I guess underappreciated in terms of like, he is always reliable and we take that for granted, especially when the offense either plays like shit or has like bad quarterback play. So I could see it in that sense. I just don't think that he's maybe like an underappreciated, underrated player because he just seems to be the guy there.
I think it's also like what they're saying is, okay, he's not a tier 1, he's a tier 2, but you look at quarterbacks around the league that have, or teams that have good quarterbacks, like Gabriel Davis was a 2 with Diggs. Of course, Gabriel Davis gets a lot of love, but the thing is Darius Slayton is a 2 with Daniel Jones. So I think what they're saying here is that Darius Slayton, who has been really consistent, only put up less than 700 yards in a season once, and that was the year he only played 5 games. Now you bring in Malik Neighbors and you add him to the mix. I just don't think Darius Slayton is in that tier group of like even Jerry Jeudy, who has been even worse than Darius Slayton, just got almost $100 million deal, right? So some people do get to capitalize on just their name, where they were drafted, or the fact that they have a great quarterback. Slayton was none of those things, yet he's still here working and putting in production. So this might not be like to the Giants he's underknown or underappreciated. This is like a national spotlight, underknown, underappreciated. Like we know him, but we would put him in a tier 4 for wide receivers, not a tier 3 or tier 2, most likely.
That's a good point. In the grand scheme of things, yeah, totally. I can see that. And man, less than 700 just once, and it was because he got injured. Like, could you imagine all those seasons of him just putting over almost 800 yards every single season? Like, that's a pretty quality wide receiver, veteran type leadership there too, and a shitty team
with Daniel Jones, mind you,
with Danny Dimes.
Tommy Tuds.
Yeah. No, I like it.
And if Darius Slayton went to the Chiefs right now, there would be massive upside for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what they thought about Kadarius Toney, and they didn't know that he doesn't know how to line up on the right side of the ball. So
offensive offsides. What? Oh God, I got one.
I'm not a Chiefs fan, but that single-handedly destroyed one of the greatest plays I've ever seen. I was upset. I was like, no.
It did.
I didn't even care at that point about the rivalry. I cared about that play living in history.
Yeah.
And because of the stupid mistake, maybe it will live in history as Kadarius Toney's worst play ever, which there will be a long list of those.
God.
And that comes out. But those are some of the underappreciated teams of the players. Of course, the Broncos weren't on this list. But if I had to give you one just for fun, I would say Jalen McMillan,
Mm,
who plays that nickel role. But when we went on that 5-game win streak, he was also a magnet for the football. I think he had an
yeah.
interception, a fumble recovery, a touchdown. This guy was flying around, making a lot of plays. Patrick Surtain definitely gets, well, respectively, like he deserves the
Mhm.
spotlight. They just drafted another corner, but I wouldn't be surprised to see McMillan take another step this year and play a bigger role than he has in the past or
And
last year.
and Nick's saying Tim Patrick would be his underappreciated player, although he's been
Yeah.
injured,
He's
right?
been injured the last 2 years, but I
Yeah.
like the pick. Um, I think if Tim Patrick comes out, last time we saw him on the field, he was wide receiver 1, not Cortland Sutton. He's
Mhm.
got great hands. His footwork looks amazing, which I always saw him as he's a possession wide receiver, 50-50 ball guy. But
Yeah.
I saw his footwork the other day and I was like, damn, I didn't know he had that kind of footwork. So,
Doing good.
yeah, if Tim Patrick comes out and goes back to being wide receiver 1, we'll look back on this and say, oh, maybe we're sleeping on him. But I think there's actual reason to hesitate a little bit. We just hope that we can get him on the field first.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue right now is just getting him on the field, keeping him on the field, right? Like because
Yeah.
he's gotten injured like in season for the rest of the season, right? Or have
Yeah.
they mostly come before?
Wait, did you say? Sorry, I was reading Nick's comment right here. He is rocking number 12. Sorry, say it again, Bill.
What?
Or I started a real job now, and
Kyle's interacting with people again. In the real world. Tim Patrick, his injuries have been before seasons or mostly like during seasons?
no, last year it happened in the off season. Like
Mm,
both did. So he
yeah.
got injured in the off season when Russ had his first year, and then he spent all year recovering, and then last year he tore his Achilles. Or it
Oh
was his
God.
Achilles and an ACL, and they both happened right when he was getting ready to play again. So the mental toughness to still, like,
Yeah.
I know he's being paid, but still, man, like, I mean, that's why he changed his number to 12. So if don't think he's not thinking about this. Like, he wanted
Yeah,
to
I
get
bet.
that juju off of him. He wanted to
Mhm.
kind of try the new number 12, and I just really, he's just one of those guys that I'm pulling for. Like, it sucks to be injured. It sucks to be injured, and you're so athletically capable,
Yeah.
of being a dominant wide receiver in the league, but your Achilles is ripped in half, so you have to watch. Like,
Yeah.
that's really brutal.
Yeah. I remember the Bears drafted a wide receiver who that was his career. Kevin something. Kevin White. He was from a small school, not really a like a Power 5 school or anything like that. They drafted him. He was like this ridiculously like just gifted talented player, and it was just like injury after injury after injury. He never scored a touchdown. He had plenty of passes that were caught. He caught a bunch of them, but never got a touchdown in the NFL. And he's done in the league, and it sucked. It sucked so bad.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Bill, um, both injuries were non-contact. I'm not sure if you were talking about Tim Patrick or not, but it wasn't our defensive players. Man, in last year, it stopped the whole practice. Like, all the players came by, took their helmets off, the cart
yeah,
came out,
yeah.
and it was just such like a somber moment
I
in
bet.
day.
I
And it
bet.
was just like, man, I just feel so bad for this guy. Tim Patrick, a practice squad guy, worked his way up as wide receiver 1 and then got a big contract. And then this is how, the last 2 years have gone. So I really
Yeah,
do hope that he can go out there and ball the fuck out.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully. Last thing before we get out of here, or before the chives, actually, Hard Knocks has chosen the Chicago Bears this offseason, or this preseason, I guess I should say.
Isn't
So
it just for a week?
I don't know. It's 5 episodes, so I think it goes into like the first couple preseason games, something
Okay,
like
because
that.
I thought I heard something. I haven't been able to keep up with it because Hard Knocks has been so flaky the last 2 years. But because
Mhm.
last year, remember, they couldn't get a team to do it, and then they just went with the Jets, and then it was like
Yeah.
it was a
What?
month after.
Yeah, and I know there's like certain criteria too that you got to kind of that
You
goes
have to have
into
a
it.
you have to have a returning head coach.
Returning head coach have not
So
made the
if you're a first
playoffs.
time, not
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, you got it out. Yeah, not made the playoffs, and you have to
2
have
years.
a
Yeah.
returning head coach.
Yeah, some like exactly. And I mean the Bears fit the bill, unfortunately. And really I think one of the biggest reasons too why they went with the Bears, kind of like why they went with the Jets last season, the quarterback. Who it was the quarterback, right? Aaron Rodgers, right? On the Jets. You had a lot of high hopes, expectations. You got Sauce Gardner there. You got Garrett Wilson there. You got a lot. You've got what's that defensive tackle's name on the Jets? You got a lot of characters there on that team. So
Yeah,
for this season, obviously the Bears, the Saints, and I think it was the Broncos that kind of all fit the bill for the requirements to be on Hard Knocks. And I think unless another team volunteered to be on there, they picked the Bears. Caleb Williams is obviously a big draw. Obviously, he has been through a lot of criticism. People love him, people hate him. He does things that people kind of just like to talk about. So big name, big type of personality. Obviously, you got Eberflus and the Bears not making the playoffs for a couple of years now, getting rid of Justin Fields and then drafting Williams number 1 overall. A lot of things to like in this season of Hard Knocks, obviously from a Bears fans perspective, but I'm going to be honest. When I first saw the notification that the Bears were picked for Hard Knocks, all I could think was like, fuck. That's literally my reaction to it because
I'm glad you said it because if you didn't, I was gonna have to say it.
it just seems to me like this is a big distraction. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like it might be a big distraction. And
It is. It
yeah,
doesn't seem like it. Like it is,
because the
but
Bears
they
have a
could
lot of
overcome it.
momentum. What's that?
But they could overcome it. Not to, but it's
Absolutely.
like it's still a massive distraction. And even
Yeah.
Saleh said last year, "I'm just happy that the Hard Knock stuff's not going on. It was really loud around here last year." And you already have Caleb Williams and all this. And I get why they picked the Bears. Like the Broncos,
Mhm.
Saints, there's nothing about those teams that's as exciting as what the Bears have going on right now. So of course, the Bears is the right pick. But as a fan, I'm surprised that you saw it that way. Because if I could push a button and it would be the Broncos, I would push the button right now. Because
Really?
even though it could be a distraction, I would never pass up an opportunity to get to see that type of footage of my team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those moments, the locker room, the meetings. Oh my God, dude, I would do some bad things for that. Like
Oh god.
I would love that. Every Hard Knocks I've watched, I've been sitting there going, I couldn't imagine if I got to see my team up and close and personal like this. The stuff you don't get to see in a press conference, the
Yeah.
stuff you don't get to see on a podcast, the
Yeah.
stuff that you have to be a fly on the wall to see. And the
Mhm.
NFL provides that through Hard Knocks. And they picked your team, which is just makes it exciting for me to watch. But it is a distraction. It's a massive
Yeah.
distraction for a team that's got a lot of hype and
Mhm.
a rookie quarterback. So I wanted to not to cut you off, but yeah,
No, you're good. You're good.
how do you feel about you were going in about the fact that it is a distraction? So I wasn't expecting you to actually. I thought because logically I can see
Mhm.
this, but I would think that the emotions would just be so high that I would have to be the one to tell you. But you already are going on it on your own.
Yeah, it really was, and I don't want to have that type of reaction to something where, a lot of people watch Hard Knocks. Maybe it does get a bit boring, in the middle of the 5 episodes or whatever, going into the preseason. People are watching football now, not really paying attention. And I don't want to be that like kind of sourpuss about it, but I just think like fuck, because everything is going so well to, with what's happening, picking Caleb Williams, getting Ramadunze, bringing in Keenan Allen, the defense being as good as they were last season going into this year, the stories coming out of training camp or OTAs, whatever. I just, like you said, this is clearly going to be a distraction, but you can also overcome it because you get to have a sort of look into the team, into what they do behind closed doors. It's not something, seeing this train, the OTAs and how they are in meetings during plays, how they talk to each other, how they interact with each other. It's not something you can get out of just like an article, on the NFL or on the Bears site. It's something that you really do get to see kind of up close and personal. And while that's all cool, I just hate it. I just kind of do hate it. There are going to be some positives. It is going to be really cool, again, to see these players and coaches interact and kind of go through their day-to-day and stuff like that. But I just, man, there was so much momentum going into it. And for them to pick the Bears, like, that's 5 weeks of cameras in their faces, mic'd up. You're already mic'd up in the NFL. There's always a lot of stuff going in the NFL. There's always a risk of injury in the NFL, whether it's in practice, preseason, in season, doesn't matter. So things like this can just kind of heighten everything. And there's a lot of hate obviously going on about Caleb Williams and the Bears and how all this hype and they're going to just end up 7-10 again or something like that. Right. So while I get it,
terrible 7-10. Is that the worst thing in the world for a rookie?
I mean, it is, because the Bears had 7 wins last season, so I would hope there's an improvement.
But now you have a rookie and a new
offensive
coordinator and new receivers. Like,
that's true. That's true.
It's not a magic, yeah, the talent's there, but like there's worse things that could happen than the Bears going 7-10 with Caleb Williams getting better, progressively throughout the season. Like, the only thing I worry about with Caleb Williams is like, you put this team around him and then he has all this hype and people expect it to just work right away. Yep. And it's like, we don't really see that in the NFL. It's like Trevor Lawrence went 1-15, 1-16 his first year. Like, Joe Burrow got injured his first year, knock on wood. The last quarterback that's really gotten drafted and just came and made a big difference was CJ Stroud and Andrew Luck. And those are, 1 in a million.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of pressure. And then, we're talking about this. My tribes are actually going to continue on this. So let's hit the.
Let's do it. Let's hit the.
We talked about how we feel about Hard Knocks. We're going to talk about how Matt Eberflus feels about it. And he is optimistic about having this role on Hard Knocks. And they have a new franchise quarterback. Their defense came around in the back half of last season, a productive offseason. The team looks great on paper, and it makes sense, right? Why they're in this position. So this is what Eberflus had to say about it. Hard Knocks, the big announcement yesterday. I talked to the team about that because I've been involved in that before. Did you know that Eberflus has been involved in that before? He was actually a part of it on the Colts. We'll get to that. Yeah, we'll touch on that. I totally forgot about that. So he talked to the team about it. I believe NFL Films and HBO do an outstanding job of getting their message out of the team. Eberflus, who served on Indianapolis' staff during its inclusion in Hard Knocks in season, but they did the in-season Hard Knocks. Remember that?
Yeah.
No one ever watches it because we have real football at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. Whose was really good was Arizona. The in season I like because, and like you get to see them lose, and then you get to see like the players come in the next day, and it's like, okay, we got to turn this around, and then they lose again, and then you just get to see all these raw emotions where in the off season everyone's happy, right? Everyone's undefeated.
Yeah.
So
they're hopeful.
Yeah, they're hopeful. The in seasons where you get a little more raw emotion. But anyway, we're going to be proud of that message. And we're going to be proud of that message because I'm proud of these guys, says Eberflus, and I'm proud of this organization. We have a bunch of really good people in the building. not only the football players, but also the support staff. We have guys that love football, that love each other and respect the game and play it the right way. So we're excited about getting that going. As the buzz surrounding the Bears is at a high, Eberflus is confident the spotlight will shine positively on his team, which is what me and Rick were just talking about.
Yep.
We have a good thing going here, Eberflus said. We've got a good brotherhood, a good mindset. Obviously, you guys have heard about our culture and how tight we are as a group, and that showed at the end of last year. It showed through adversity, and it's going to show again this year. Eberflus was the Colts defensive coordinator during the 2021 season, which saw the Colts finishing painfully shy of the playoffs with a 9-8 record, and the team's collapse showcased on Hard Knocks. See, that it's always a collapse whenever these in-season ones happen.
Yep.
The campaign preceded the total meltdown. Preceded the total meltdown that was the 2022 season, in which Frank Reich was fired and replaced by Jeff Saturday. That feels like not long ago and long ago at the same time.
But long ago, yeah.
By then, Eberflus had already left for Chicago, but the 2023 season seemed to be shaping up in a similar way for Eberflus. That is, until his defense blossomed, making the Bears into a competitive, feisty bunch that also happened to own the number 1 overall pick. One might wonder why a coach armed with new toys and carrying plenty of pleasure would want to participate in Hard Knocks. For Eberflus, the only difference is the cameras. And this is what he said. Yeah, so I was the defensive coordinator at the time in Indianapolis, and really, it's the same message, Eberflus explained. We had a real positive attitude about it, and we knew that we had good people in the building. And our message was going to be, we're going to be who we are, and we're going to operate the way that we do. No one changes how they act. No one changes what they do. We just focus on our job. And they're going to have the special interest stories that they do, which I think some of them are pretty good. We have a lot of them here in the building, so I'm excited to see that. That's a little sneak preview of coach saying, man, I know my players, and some of them got some stories that are going to be really great for TV.
All right.
Chicago will be loaded with storylines for NFL Films and HBO producers to track. From television production standpoint, choosing the Bears was a no-brainer. It shows that we got something brewing here, Tremaine Edmonds said. Everybody wants to see what's going on. They'll receive an up-and-close personal look at all the happenings inside Hollis Hall come August.
I like that. It gives me a bit more, like, it kind of puts me at ease that Eberflus said, really the only difference we noticed were the cameras, and everything else kind of just flowed the way it's supposed to during training camp, during OTAs, during whatever preseason. So that kind of worries me a little bit less. So I'm glad.
Little Bill Belichick-y, right? Just do your job.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I do kind of like that from Eberflus, and hopefully he just hopefully it's true. Hopefully it's not a distraction, but cameras in your face getting mic'd up, I think is going to be a distraction nonetheless. How much of an impact it is on the players depends on the coaching staff and the players. So I like that.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I guess I don't know how I feel about it still. Anyway, Bills Giants. Today's Giants throw of the day was Tommy Tuds DeVito to Hyatt for a one-handed grab in the end zone. I love it, Bill.
That was all Jalen Hyatt. See, if Tommy threw the ball the right way, he wouldn't have had to make an acrobatic one-handed catch. But I am happy to hear that Jalen Hyatt is finally stepping into his potential, because he was.
That's fair.
I mean, that's a weapon right there. If they can figure out how to use him, or the quarterback can actually get him the ball, that's awesome. But Tommy Tuds, I love your love for him. It's like it's more important to see Tommy on the field than winning for you. Like
it's like when Kyle swore to me that Drew Lock was the guy in Denver.
It's like when I wanted to keep rolling with Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, He wins a playoff game. He takes over for a 1-4 team, takes us to the playoffs. Remember that game we watched before our first deployment? We were at the airport in Maine, and we were and I pretended I didn't know how that game ended. I was like, let's just watch an old Broncos Bears game. Who knows what's going to
You
happen?
knew exactly how it
And it was that one where Tim Tebow. I just interviewed
ended.
somebody that said one of their favorite Bronco moments was that game. Actually,
Oh, got it. That was Kyle. Kyle got me. Kyle
it's
got
Tebow
me.
time.
It's
It was a real
Tebow
thing.
time. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this live stream. Want to give a shout out to all of our members who have subscribed to us, starting off with Bill, Murricane, Nash, Ginger, Tyler, Liam, the Steelers fan, Galadies, Perry King, Lil E is now a member. We also got Houday Nation, Ian, that Dolphin fan, and Clue. We want to thank all you guys for being members of the Only Football podcast channel.
What's our total up to?
We have got a total of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 total members on the Only Football podcast. You guys are now
an unlucky number. Let's get one more.
We need 30 more. You guys are part of the Only Football fam membership. So we thank you guys so much for being a part of it. And thank you to Bill and Clue for gifting those memberships. And of course, always thank you to Bill and everyone else who always sends us super chats. We always really, really appreciate it. Again, you guys can join and be a member, a part of the Only Football fam for only $2.99 a month. There it says there at the bottom on the ticker. And obviously, go follow us on X. You can follow me at And Now Rick. You can follow the Only Football podcast Twitter at Only Football Pod. Kyle, where can they follow you on X?
You can follow me on X at NFLWITHKYLE. NFL with Kyle, in case that seemed confusing.
Kyle,
please do.
Kyle's a good speller.
Got my YouTube channel almost to 50 subscribers.
Let's go.
I got like 30 this month, so making waves. I'm not sure what happened. All the Bronco interviews were getting like 100 views, and then the last two I did have 6. So if you guys could check those out. I don't know if it's because I'm using the same thumbnail. The YouTube maybe thinks it's the same video. I don't know how that works, but it's a shame because the last 2 that I did, I really enjoyed them.
I was going to say might be to the people who have already seen it too. You know what I mean? So maybe you got to change up the thumbnail a bit.
But I just kind of liked it being all the same. Yeah. Well, I do change the number. So like I have like the thumbnail and then it says number 1, number 2, number 3, and I constantly change that. But
you know what would be cool, I think, for the thumbnail moving forward? If you threw up a jersey number on the thumbnail to mark which one it is. You know what I mean?
That's a good yes. Yeah. Dude, we should start a channel together. I think we both have good ideas.
I think we should start a YouTube channel together.
Let's start it. We say next week Monday.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
All right.
All you guys on our YouTube channel, make sure to go to our other YouTube channel. But again, guys, please like this stream. Please subscribe, become a member, all that good stuff. Obviously, go follow us on Twitch and on X as well. You'll get all of our updates from there. And like Bill said, check the replies to the stream announcement. I post some things there for you guys. We are always talking to you guys here on X, not really on Twitch. There's not really other than the live chat, there's not really much to do on Twitch, but on X and here on YouTube, we're always talking with you guys. Bill knows it. A couple of the other guys know it, but thank you guys again so much for being here. Kyle, you got anything before we get out of here?
No, just hopefully we're making the off season exciting for you guys. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you guys are entertained, and if not, we'll work on getting a little bit better at entertaining you.
Don't get a heart attack by watching this. Don't get a seizure by watching Kyle's screen right now.
Sorry, I should have put a light sensitivity warning before I did this, but I wanted to leave with a bang.
I want to leave with a bang, bang. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. Kyle, always a good time, brother.
Always a good time.